Do you find that writing with a fountain pen necessitates a faster writing tempo versus other writing instruments? Or is this only true in cases of cheap paper or wet pens? Okay, Preston, I'm going to read into your question just a little bit and make an assumption here based on what you're asking that you're probably using a fountain pen and you're using less expensive paper. Okay, maybe I'm not reading that much into the question since you say it's cheap paper, but no. I think what happens is most people when they're switching over to fountain pens, it's their first pen, they're using the same paper they've always used, and they're using maybe a fountain pen nib size in medium because that's what is most widely available for whatever reason in the US. And especially if you go to like an office supply store or something, they just kind of generalize and they say, yeah, medium, that's what people want. So that's all they offer. And then you go and it's like, wow, this writing seems a lot broader than what I was used to with my gel pen or my ballpoint. And so you would compensate for that by writing faster, basically giving less time for the ink to kind of soak into the page as you're writing. That to me is not ideal. So really what you're getting at here is you are wanting a finer line than what your pen is actually providing with your pen, ink, and pen and paper combination. So if that's the case, I would, writing tempo is one way to perhaps compensate for that, but it's really like the least ideal of all of the options you have in your little pen world to give you the exact kind of writing experience that you want. So yes, okay, it could be convenient because you're not changing anything else, but I would say if you could look to possibly change your nib size, that would be the easiest, maybe not easiest logistically, but that would be the longest lasting way to change that. Go to a finer nib, because honestly, if you're using absorbent paper, you're gonna need a finer nib because most of the paper that we have in the US is not great. It's not made for fountain pens, so it's very absorbent and it's just going to need a finer nib because that ink is going to really soak into the page, because fountain pen ink is more watery than ballpoint and gel rollerball ink. So I think that's more kind of getting at the heart of your questions. I think what you're saying is wet pens is probably just normal pens that you're using on more absorbent paper. If you change your paper, I think it would open up a whole new world. That's why people that really get into fountain pens end up, well, I shouldn't make an assumption. I would say it's more common for people to explore broader nib sizes when they get into changing their paper. I was going to say like more experienced people get into broader nib sizes. That's really not the case. It's really a preference thing. But I would say in general, where I was going with all that is I tend to recommend extra fine and fine nibs for people that are just getting into fountain pens because you're probably using your normal paper and those nibs will more mimic what you're expecting based on the pens that you've been using up until that point. Does that make sense? I hope so. Kind of went a weird way on that question, but that's what I'm thinking. So I would not necessarily, no, I would not say that a faster writing tempo is necessary. I think you just need to get the right combination of paper and pen. And ink too. Ink affects it to a degree, less so than paper and nib size.